Hello there and welcome to our look ahead to what the papers will be bringing us tomorrow. Joining me from Inverness is the broadcaster and journalist Nikki Marr. And here in the studio, hello there, and here in the studio is the Professor of Law at Pepperdine University, Colleen Graffy, and a former State Department official. It's good to have you both with us. Let's have a look at some of the top stories now. In the front pages, the Financial Times is claiming the European Commission President Jean-Claude Juncker has offered David Cameron an olive branch by giving his nominee for a top job the chance to oversee EU finances. Money matters also dominate the front of the Daily Telegraph. This time it's the Governor of the Bank of England's warning that Scotland may struggle to keep the pound if it becomes independent. Scotland's Daily Record claims it's been a Black Wednesday for the First Minister, Alex Salmond, as a poll for the paper suggests the No campaign has a clear lead. The Guardian quotes fears that mortgage lending could dry up for Scottish homebuyers if there's a vote for independence. Ed Miliband, Nick Clegg and David Cameron are pictured on the front page of the Metro with the headline, "United We Stand." They've joined forces for a no vote, of course. The Eye also focuses on the Westminster leaders campaigning in Scotland. There's a different weighty issue on the front of the Times. They have the results of a study which claims shaming and blaming overweight people only makes them heavier. And finally, The Sun shows a picture of a security guard who has become the first man to be signed off work with morning sickness. Bit of transference there, one suspects, one sincerely hopes. I've no idea. Nikki, you've got no idea, have you?
I have no idea.
No, me neither. Me neither. Anyway,
only in The Sun. I guess it's catching.
Let's go to the Independent there. Nikki, the scramble for Scotland. Picture there of four heavyweight political leaders all trying to sway votes either to the yes camp or the no camp. It's been a big day in the campaign.
It certainly has. I wonder if Scotland's had quite as many heavyweights ever here at all at one time. The scramble for Scotland, the headline says it all. It's an absolute scramble. And I think since Sunday and that YouGov poll, which put the Yes campaign slightly ahead, it has been a scramble and it's been a little bit undignified, I think, probably from everybody.
Undignified, you think? Colleen, here in London, do you think it's been undignified?
No, I think it's just fascinating. I mean, the newspapers are just incredibly exciting. And I actually have a question for Nikki. I'm just wondering, has there been a development between how people are thinking? Is it with the head, with the heart? Because all the leaders are making comments about that. You know, don't vote just with your passion. Also think this through. Is that the way people in Scotland are thinking? Are they thinking sort of Braveheart, excitement, independence, and now all of these banks and RBS and Mark Carney are coming out and sobering everybody up? Is that the change in the poll, or what's happening?
I think what we have to remember is this is just one poll, and the only poll that really matters is the one on the 18th. That's the only one which will decide whether Scotland will become an independent country or won't. One poll this way, one poll that way. We've been living with this for the last couple of years north of the border, and I think probably the south of the border, you've only just woken up to this in the last 4 or 5 days. It is a bit of heart and head, and I think that's why so many people are undecided. So many people think they would love Scotland to be an independent country. I think David Cameron coming up and saying it's not about the effing Tories, I think in a small way he's missing the point, because actually for many people what it's about is looking at the success of the Holyrood government and seeing how well they've done with education, which is devolved, also with the health service, which is devolved, and thinking, well, could we actually go our own way and do it all by ourselves and become independent? So in that way we're thinking with our heads. But then there is that fear about finances, and I think that is going to sway a lot of undecided voters.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry, Colleen, if we just move on to the Times, because financial turmoil hits Scotland, Colleen. I mean, that for the No campaign is where all the rhetoric about, the economy perhaps going down the toilet, if there is a vote for yes, North Sea oil running out, not being a member of the European Union, and so on and so forth. This is the reality, they would say, of a possible vote yes.
Yes, and I do feel that some of these companies had been playing their cards close to the vest earlier. And as the article in the Times points out, a stream of blue chip companies broke cover to underline the risks of independence. And so they are coming out quite vociferously, and we had Danny Alexander as well, Chief Secretary to the Treasury, saying quite clearly that the economic case for separation is finally dawning on everyone, and that this is going to impact growth and jobs and investment. And just thinking in terms of trade and investment, how we have the whole UK ministers going out trying to get investment for the UK. Will Scotland have the capacity to do that as their own individual country? That was actually a question I was going to have for Nikki, is she made the point about Holyrood and the importance of local government, and of course all politics are local. To what extent, Nikki, are people looking at Scotland's place globally? Because there would be that impact on trade and investment without having the big UK out there pitching for the whole country.
I think that is an issue, certainly. I mean, Scotland is looking at itself as a global player, potentially, and certainly the Yes campaign are. And in particular, when it comes to the question of Europe, a lot of Scots that I have talked to are very concerned about the question that Cameron is potentially going to have his referendum on whether the UK as a whole stays in Europe. And a lot of Scots I'm talking to would rather be part of an independent Scotland in Europe than be part of the United Kingdom and out of Europe. So we're very much looking at ourselves as part of a global picture. It's not about Scotland being separatists and being separate from absolutely everything. For a lot of Scots voters and a lot of Scots Yes voters, it's about being an independent Scotland as part of a world player. One of the statistics we keep hearing from the Yes campaign is that we are apparently the 14th most wealthy nation in the world. Now, that's from one side. You hear the other side, and it's an entirely different statistic. And that's actually been the story that we've heard for months and months and months.
Yeah, I mean, just to back up what some of the Times is saying, the BBC is now has been confirmed by RBS Group to the BBC that it does have contingency plans to move its headquarters from Scotland to London.
It's contingency, though. It's not a definite.
Yeah, indeed.
And also cash being brought up just in case there's a run on people wanting to take money out of the bank. So there's property impact, little clauses being put in. I'm selling this property only if there's a no vote.
Yeah, I mean, let's go to Daily Record then. Alex's Black Wednesday. The Yes campaign, Nikki, in Inverness, cock a hoop over the weekend, obviously, because they nudged in front for the first time in any poll since the campaign began. Seems to have slipped back now.
It does, but yeah, it's just one poll, and this is the only one that the Scots, the Yes campaign were ahead in. I think we're really not taking account of the 10% who are undecided. It's 53% no thanks of those who are decided, 47% yes of those who are already decided, 10% still wavering. And of course, lots of people have already voted. We don't know how they voted at all.
Yeah, the front page of the Herald, which you, I don't think may have seen, Nikki. I don't think you've got that up there.
I've just been handed a copy. I've not read it yet.
Yeah, Union turns the heat on Yes. Big businesses add to pressure on Salmond as poll puts No 6 points ahead.
Yeah.
Colleen here in London. David Cameron, Ed Miliband, Mr. Clegg made a calculated decision today to push the sort of passionate heart element of the union, why it's important, not with their heads, with their hearts. Does that work on its own, or is it this kind of pressure, potentially from big business and so on and so forth, that is going to perhaps affect the undecideds?
It goes back to that heart and head question, and I think that part of it is also that Labour is really reaching out to their members, because they're recognizing what will happen with Scotland not part of the UK, the Labour vote that could swing the next election. So they'll lose those Labour members of Parliament, and it will have a big impact on Labour. And I saw the Matt cartoon, I think, in the Times of ISIS saying, well, we better invade now before the job is done for us, separating, breaking up the country.
All right, okay. Let's go to The Guardian then, and we're going to move away from matters Scottish to President Obama preparing to step up America's role in the battle against ISIS. Colleen, he's got a big speech he's going to give the American people tonight, outlining the strategy that he said he didn't have last week, but that he now has, many people would say thankfully, in dealing with ISIS militants.
Absolutely. It's going to be a big speech, 2 a.m. tonight. I'm not sure how many people will be up for that. He is trying to row back from, as you alluded to, saying last week that he didn't actually have a strategy yet. Now, I don't think he actually meant that. I think he meant that they just hadn't decided which of the strategies they were going to go with. And he's also apparently going to be saying that he does not need the approval of Congress, which of course is what he sought when we were looking at chemical weapons in Syria. The other will be what action will be taken in Syria, because in the past we have avoided wanting to have any strikes within Syria, only in Iraq. We have Secretary of State Kerry meeting with the incoming Iraqi president and pushing to say, how can we have unity within the Iraqi government, because that political unity is going to be key in dealing with ISIS as well.
Sure. I mean, Nikki, the Scots obviously have a lot on their plate with the referendum and all that stuff, but obviously the situation in Iraq and Syria must be playing on people's minds too.
It is, particularly given that the hostage who was apparently next in line is a Scot. That makes it sound very parochial and we only care about our own. But certainly this is something that Scotland is keeping a very close eye on. You're right, the big story at the moment is what's happening a week tomorrow. But certainly this is a massive concern. It's a huge issue. I mean, there are no doubt, without being too simplistic about it, that IS are truly evil and something has to be done. It's just a question of what can be done and how carefully it can be done in order to not have this escalate into another world war.
And also, what sort of coalition can we build?
Yeah.
Because I think we would
That'll
feel
be
more
critical,
comfortable
won't
if
it?
we could have
Particularly
Turkey
with
involved.
Arab nations, yeah.
But Turkey also has hostages being held, and that's muting their views on the issue. And we would also want Saudi Arabia involved.
Yeah.
So building a coalition in that area is going to be important.
Vital. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the Daily Telegraph. Nikki, do you drive a car?
I do drive a car,
Is
yes.
it a diesel?
It's not, it's petrol.
Ah, it is petrol. Unleaded?
Yes, it is.
Ah,
I have to think there.
Oh, right, okay. Well, you
I don't fill it up very often.
You came up with the
usually on my
right
bike.
answer, because Boris Johnson is saying that drivers should be paid £2,000 to scrap their diesel cars. Does that sound like a good idea?
Well, do you know what? I very rarely agree with anything that Boris Johnson has to say. But I do think that a lot of people feel really betrayed by this. They bought their diesel cars. They think they were doing the right thing for the environment. Turns out they weren't doing the right thing for the environment at all. They're going to be penalised with extra charges for getting into London. So let's scrap them all. But we have to somehow compensate them. Let's give them all a couple of grand. I think they should give them Boris bikes instead.
Do you think the Holyrood government would want to follow the same path?
Do you know, I haven't given it a second thought. I have no idea. We're too busy worrying about Euro and NATO and all these things. I haven't a clue.
All right, okay, Colleen. I mean, yeah, it's a lot of people do feel cheated. I mean, they were encouraged to buy diesel cars. They got tax incentives to do so. Now we're being told that it was a bad idea. We should get some cash, shouldn't we?
But were people really being encouraged to buy cars in London with the congestion charge?
Well, this is before. This is way before that.
I know. Well, no, it's interesting because the United States did the same thing. It was called the Car Allowance Rebate System, CARS, and the nickname was Cash for Clunkers. And it was a similar idea where it will be more effective for us to just buy these cars off the road. And I seem to recall that it was not the best result. So I hope someone's looking at that case study in the United States to see if it's going to be working here. And really, it might be better to just jump towards encouraging the building of these electric batteries and going with the electric cars. So setting up a big plants being opened in the United States, that might revolutionize the whole process.
It just might. The United States riding to the rescue as usual.
Well, it'd be great if it happened globally.
Imagine
China.
Colleen, hang. Where's Nikki gone? Well, she's gone.
I'm still here.
Are you under the
Can you
desk?
see me?
Are you? Yeah, you're back. You're back, Nick. We lost vision with you there.
2010 rebate.
We lost vision with that, Nikki. It's been great having you join us for the papers.
A pleasure.
Many thanks to that. And Colleen, great having you here in the studio too.
Good to be here.
Thanks to you both. Stay with us here on BBC News because.